Today's spooky spot, we're having a look at a vintage toy line called Monster Force, the Heart of Evil. In this particular one, we're looking at Dracula, the Prince of Darkness, leader of the creatures. He comes bonus, a creepy coffin base with monstrous display scene. Transylvania. Now, it says down here, Transylvania, A-N-K-H, Ank, with clip-on blood-sucking bat. Luckily, that bat is not blood-sucking, it's plastic. I would be a little more concerned if it was. This was a line that came to us from the folks over at Playmates Toys. Not recommended for, recommended for ages 4 and up. Not recommended for ages 3 and below. On the back of the package, beware the dark powers that Dracula can unleash with the force of his terrifying ancient hand weapons. For added fear, the bat clips onto the Ankh, and both rest on Dracula's gravestone. I guess Ankh is that, I probably have not pronounced it correctly, but it's this. It's that Egyptian kind of cross thingamajigger. Resuming where we left off, it says don't look now, but behind your shoulder are more collectible Monster Force figures. The Monster Force consists of Lance McGruder, Doc Reed Crawley, and Trip Hansen, and Luke Talbot, and Frankenstein. I keep saying and because I like Luke Talbot and Frankenstein I would think are the monsters, but I guess they're the good monsters, versus Dracula and the creature of, well, from the Black Lagoon. I would say perhaps ballparking it here, I'm going to think that the bad guys are grossly outnumbered. There's 5 good guys to 2 bad guys. Compad transmission, Doc Reed broadcasts all channels. Warning, let it be known that to all mankind that new breeds of monsters have unloosed themselves upon the earth. Stronger, more horrific monsters, Dracula, the legendary vampire, has risen to lead other immortal monsters in an assault on our fair cities. Fear when you must, but preserve, we too have surpassed our ancestors who fought with stakes and torches. Our weapons are fierce and high-tech. Our EMAX, emergency monster armed containment suits, are perfect accoutrements to combat the extraordinary powers of these creatures of the dark. Indeed, our spirits are determined. We will strike at the heart of this new evil, and we will prevail. That's kind of right up there with the speech, the iconic speech from Independence Day. I guess there's a mild read-up for Dracula. Subject, Dracula, alias, Prince of Darkness. Strength, level 10. Features, vampire teeth. Yes. Razor-sharp fingernails. Makes sense. Comments, seems polite and charming to hide his need for human blood. A master of evil, seemingly noble, arrogant, and patronizing, can metamorphose into vermin and other loathsome creatures. Great hypnotic powers, can conjure illusions and physically summon those under his spell. Commands brutal winds and dark forces of nature. That is Dracula. Spot's going to take a very terrifying break, very vintage, creepy, kooky break. We're going to get this opened up, and when we come back, Spot's going to have a better look at Dracula, the Prince of Darkness. Don't go anywhere, guys. There's more on your way. Stay tuned. So Dracula comes with a display stand. Featured on the front of the stand, it says Dracula. And it has this weird coloring to it, which I can only assume it's actually as if light is shining down on it and cascading this kind of purplish color onto the gray. There is a slot on the back, and realistically, the idea with the slot is you're supposed to take the back card here, which Spot started cutting, and then I thought, nah, you know what, I'll just show you guys. You get the same impression. You cut this out, and that sits on the display stand. Gives you like a little castle, underground castle dungeon area. It's neat. It is neat. Putting that to the side. And by the side, I mean on the ground. You also get, let's move Dracula out of the way and without knocking him over. Also, you get with this, the Ankh. I probably not pronounced that correctly, A-N-K-H. Ankh. That pegs into the top here, just into the ripped tombstone there. It doesn't actually sit well. It kind of just flops around a little bit. Unless I really don't have it pushed in. No, I do have it pushed in all the way. It just flops around. It's also not quite the same color. I kind of wish it was gray, you know, to go with the rest of this, but oh well. And then the bat can clip onto that. Now, it all sounds great. Sure, it sounds great on paper, but it doesn't actually clip on very well. In fact, the easiest thing I find is clip the bat on, but you can see, let me just bring the camera in here. The bat clips on, but not by much. That it too also falls off that little cross if you're not careful. So peg that into the stand, and you get something that looks like that. I don't feel it's as impressive because it's so short. I don't think a bat would really land on such a short surface like that. You would think that it really should be a lot higher up than, you know, where it is currently. He also does come with, for accessories, a giant bug, which kind of looks like a scarab bug, like an Egyptian scarab bug. And it looks as if the way it's been posed, you really should be able to, let's bring the camera down here. You should be able to, that's exactly what I thought. You should be able to flick it, kind of like those old frog toys. So you get that, some interesting details. At least it's black versus this really weird looking rat, which is colored this orangey neon pink color. This is a mutant rat. This is the kind of rat you would not want biting you because you probably turn into a mutant rat person. Or it just really has been drinking a lot of Hawaiian Punch. You get like a little rat character. He doesn't really have a place. Sure, he has a place in society, but he doesn't really have a place on the stand. I guess you could kind of just prop him like that. The bug, maybe we can just kind of put to the side like that. So there you have the display stand. It does have two pegs because Dracula can peg onto the display stand like so. He does have a cape, which is removable. It just actually is a very large peg, I might add, and a peg hole on the back of Dracula. I'm glad it can unpeg from Dracula because I find, while it's a good cape, it does, it's hard to get on once you take it off, for example. You kind of, because the prong, or the plug itself, is rubbery. So you kind of have to find the hole and plug it in, but you have to put a lot of pressure to actually get it to sit on into that hole. The cape is pre-sculpted. It doesn't flow or anything like that. It's not material or just a rubbery plastic. The inside is pink, which kind of matches the coloring of the wash that they put on the gray stand here. Just for the sake of it, so let's take the cape off. There's the back of the cape there. Just put it to the side. And further inspecting Dracula, he's very generic. He is probably one of the most generic looking Draculas I have seen. You know, sure, yeah, okay, he kind of has a Ra's al Ghul chin beard thing going on there. But there's nothing that's really overly exciting to me about the figure. I like that at least they put blue in his hair, kind of just giving those highlights. But his eyes are red, his mouth is open, got the vampire teeth going. But there's nothing that I haven't already seen with like they pretty much said, okay, what can we put on this vampire that makes you think vampire? I don't know, how about fangs? Yes, fangs good. How about pointy ears? Yes, we'll do that as well. Slicked back, Elvis-style hairstyle? Yes, we'll do that too. How about Ra's al Ghul chin beard? It's a stretch, but we'll include that as well. He's got very long arms. His arms probably a little, I would say his torso is proportioned to his legs, but his arms are super big, and his head is equally big as well. Articulation-wise, Dracula's head does rotate all the way around. His arms also rotate all the way around. And surprisingly, though, he does have articulation in the wrists, which is a piece of articulation I actually wasn't expecting. Generally, when you've got a swiveled arm like this, you don't tend to have swiveled wrists. They tend to just be a fixed, you know, one piece, like what you see here. When you get to his legs, legs are disappointing because they have that V-cut swivel, which means that his legs, it's like this one leg, really should be intended to be arched back. The moment you start arching it forward, it looks like he's kind of jive stepping. Also, too, the coloring of his pants aren't quite black. Neither really, I should say, is his cape. They're kind of black, but they've got like almost like a gray, like a metallic gray wash over top of it. It's not a bad figure, but I would say like with the Monster Force figures, they're figures that probably didn't sell very well, and probably sat on the pegs and nobody ended up buying them. Dracula, for all the Dracula figures that I've ever seen, he probably is the least interesting vampire, at least in my opinion. I suppose maybe as a kid, and I suppose back in the 80s, 90s when these figures were around, yes, maybe a kid would have really enjoyed them. They're not a figure line, I would say, that really now people would probably go back and start collecting again. They're just slightly okay. And you know what? I think the problem is, too, this line I don't think had any vehicles to speak of. Maybe if they had vehicles, it could have elevated this line to something a little cooler. Playmates definitely did very well with their Ninja Turtle line. I don't think did all that well with the Monster Force. Dracula, the Prince of Darkness, I'm going to only give you, sir, a 5.5. Sorry, Dracula, some other day maybe. Today's Spooky Spot, we were having a look at the Playmates Toys Monster Force Dracula. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more spooky spots heading your way. Thanks for watching, as you always do. See you next time.